Welcome back. Today we're diving into something pretty huge, a potential, fundamental shift in how the U.S. financial system might operate. You shared some fascinating sources detailing this initiative called Project Crypto.
That's right. It's this effort aimed at essentially modernizing the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and positioning the U.S. to be, the clear global leader in regulated blockchain finance.
Okay, so our mission today is really to unpack that policy framework, Project Crypto, and then, crucially, connect the dots, look at the execution side. Which companies, like Metallicus, are the sources saying are, strategically set up right now to actually build out these new financial rails? We need to look at both sides, policy and plumbing.
Exactly.
Now, this Project Crypto, it started under the Trump administration, right? Figures like Paul Atkins were involved. But regardless of the sort of political origins, the sources we're looking at focus squarely on the structural market impact of this proposed policy.
Yeah, the politics are sort of secondary to the core idea here.
It's not just a minor adjustment, is it? It sounds like a declaration. The U.S. prioritizing regulated on-chain finance.
That's the message. Transforming America into the crypto capital, led by a, hopefully, modernized SEC.
So let's start with the problem. What exactly is Project Crypto trying to fix?
Well, the sources are pretty blunt about it. They really critique the current financial infrastructure. We're talking legacy systems described as, and this is a quote, slow, expensive, and riddled with intermediaries.
Okay, slow, expensive sounds bad, but can we get more specific? What are the real pain points the sources highlight?
Oh yeah, they get specific. It's about friction that costs, billions every year. Think about cross-border payments using correspondent banking. That can take days. Multiple fees pile up.
Right.
And even just domestically, T+2 settlement for trades. That means your capital is tied up for 2 whole days after you trade.
Which creates risk, right, and locks up money that could be used elsewhere.
Exactly. Massive opportunity cost. It's that built-in inefficiency project crypto aims to basically eliminate.
So the fix isn't just about going digital, it's more fundamental. Replacing those old clunky rails with blockchain infrastructure for speed, transparency, security.
Precisely. It's a paradigm shift. The regulatory goal here is to rewrite the rulebook, to allow things like tokenized securities, tokenized real-world assets, compliant digital processes to really flourish.
So changing rules around custody, maybe setting up regulatory sandboxes for testing.
Yes, exactly. Sandboxes, pilot programs, creating a clear path so markets can actually move on-chain. The end game, a U.S. financial system that's faster, cheaper, programmable, and, it's critical, globally competitive.
That's a huge vision. Okay, so if Project Crypto is the blueprint, the big plan, who's actually pouring the concrete? The sources seem to pivot here, saying, look, policy is one thing, but you need companies ready to execute, especially on compliance. Which brings us to Metallicus.
Right, because without the execution engine, the policy is just words on paper.
So let's talk about their approach. Compared to, the rest of the crypto world over the past few years, the sources say others were chasing hype cycles, focusing on speculation. Metallicus apparently did something very different. Was that a gamble, or did they see something coming?
The sources frame it very much as foresight. They were, quote, quietly building a compliance-first ecosystem designed specifically for, deep integration with banking and regulators.
So they skipped the retail frenzy?
Seems like it. They focused on building infrastructure that meets institutional needs, safety, security, traceability, the stuff banks actually care about.
And the timing now seems, perfect, according to these sources.
It's critical.
Yeah.
Project Crypto directly validates that whole compliance-first strategy. If the SEC starts demanding compliant solutions for tokenized assets, having a system built for KYC, AML, regulatory reporting from the start, that's a massive advantage. A regulatory tailwind, as the source puts it.
They don't have to bolt compliance on afterwards.
Exactly. They're already there. It's baked in.
Okay, let's zoom in on the tech then. This digital banking network structure they talk about, it's layered, right?
Yes. The foundation is the metal blockchain. They call it the Layer 0 infrastructure.
Layer 0, the institutional core.
That's it. Fully customizable, but the really strategic bit is that it's ISO 2022 ready.
Okay, ISO 2022. We hear that term thrown around a lot. Why is that the key for institutions, not just, a nice feature?
Because it's basically the language of modern global banking. It's the standard framework all the major banks use for exchanging electronic data, payments, everything.
So being ISO ready means the metal blockchain can actually talk to the existing banking systems, the ones we just called slow and costly.
Exactly. It's the interoperability key. Without that, you can't bridge the old world and the new. Adoption just stalls.
And this Layer 0 architecture, it lets banks and credit unions launch their own private subnets. This sounds like where the regulatory comfort comes in. Is that right?
Absolutely. This is a crucial point. A private subnet is a controlled, permissioned environment. Only approved institutions who've gone through KYC can join. It isolates risk, which is obviously something regulators demand.
Right, keeps things contained.
And importantly, the sources stress that KYC and AML compliance are baked into the infrastructure itself.
Okay, baked in. Walk us through what that actually means, because it sounds pretty revolutionary if it works as described.
Well, it potentially shifts the whole compliance burden. Instead of banks doing all this complex reporting after the fact, the sources suggest the infrastructure itself automates a lot of it. Every entity, every asset on that Layer 0 is non-repudiably identified.
So compliance isn't an afterthought, it's part of the transaction process itself, instantaneous.
That's the claim, moving compliance from this burdensome post-transaction chore to an infrastructure-enforced reality. And that level of assurance is really why banks might even consider moving trillions of dollars in assets onto these new rails.
Okay, that makes sense for the layer 0 as the institutional engine room. But they also have a public chain, a layer 1. How does that fit into this compliance-heavy picture?
Yeah, that's the XPR network. They call it the layer 1A chain. So while the layer 0 handles the really regulated institutional stuff, the layer 1 is more of a public chain. It's designed for easier tokenization of different assets, stablecoins, NFTs, whatever, and for building financial apps.
And the sources highlight a feature there, zero-fee transactions. That sounds good for users, obviously. But if the main goal is this robust institutional network, how do they make money on the XPR network without transaction fees? That usually rings alarm bells in DeFi.
That's a fair question. The sources clarify the monetization isn't really based on those transaction fees or gas fees, which can be unpredictable. Instead, the value capture comes from the regulated services built on top, especially those linked to the layer 0.
Ah, okay.
Like fees from regulated stablecoin issuance, custody services for those tokenized assets, licensed financial applications running within their product suite. They're selling the infrastructure and regulated services, not charging per transaction on the public chain.
Got it. And that product suite is the bridge then, linking TradFi, traditional finance, with this new DeFi world, things like Metal Pay, the WebAuth wallet, Metal XDX, the loan protocol.
Exactly. These are the tools designed to move value across these new rails. Metal Pay, for instance, isn't just another payment app. The sources position it as a highly regulated way to get fiat currency onto the system.
An on-ramp.
Right. Which banks can then use to issue their own stablecoins onto that compliant layer 0. They're trying to capture the whole asset lifecycle from fiat coming in to trading to lending.
Okay, let's tie this back to the big picture, Project Crypto. If the SEC is signaling this shift, what are the immediate growth opportunities for a company like Metallicus? What kicks in first?
Well, the sources point to a few key areas, and they seem pretty significant. First, stablecoins and payments. If the U.S. wants to maintain monetary control in a digital world, compliant stablecoins are vital. Banks and credit unions need partners who can handle issuance in a regulated way.
And Metallicus is already doing pilots in this area?
The sources say yes, they're actively piloting these integrations already. So that's number one.
Okay, what's next? If we tokenize securities, where do they live?
Exactly. Digital asset custody. That's the second big one. If these tokens represent actual regulated assets, you can't just store them anywhere.
Yeah.
You need secure, compliant custody.
Right, not just some random wallet.
No way. As assets move on-chain, you need solutions that combine that deep regulatory compliance. Think about those private subnets again with the tech advantages of blockchain. Metallicus seems positioned for that.
Makes sense. And third, need somewhere to trade these things.
Liquidity. That brings us to liquidity hubs. As serious institutional money flows in, they need reliable, deep markets to trade. So the loan protocol, the Metal XDX, they're designed to become core hubs for institutional trading and lending, all within that regulated environment.
So the policy shift doesn't just create demand for any liquidity, but specifically for regulated liquidity.
Precisely. That's the key difference.
And it sounds like they've been smart about distribution, too. They're not trying to sign up every single bank individually.
No, and that's crucial for scale. They're integrating with the big infrastructure providers that already serve thousands of banks and credit unions.
The sources list some major names. Fiserv, Jack Henry.
Yep. Fiserv, Jack Henry, Temenos, Valera, Deland. These are the companies whose tech already runs inside countless financial institutions.
So by integrating with them, Metallicus can essentially plug its digital banking network into the existing financial system, a shortcut to mass adoption.
Effectively, yeah. It's like flipping a switch to reach millions of existing customers and trillions in assets.
Yeah. Which brings us to that big number the sources mention, their long-term goal. It's not just about crypto market share, is it?
No, not at all. It's about capturing the transition of traditional markets onto these new rails. They see themselves on the launch pad, as the source puts it, ready to onboard the next $1 trillion of financial assets into a blockchain-powered bank-ready future.
$1 trillion. That number really underlines the scale of what Project Crypto could potentially unlock.
It does. It shows this isn't niche anymore. This is about the core financial system.
This whole deep dive, it paints such a clear picture of alignment between policy intent and, well, the tech being built. You don't always see that so clearly laid out.
No, it's quite striking. To sort of synthesize it all, Project Crypto is the policy framework. It's the green light from regulators saying, okay, we're moving finance on chain and compliance is non-negotiable.
And Metallicus.
Metallicus is positioned as the execution engine, the compliant technology built specifically to handle the institutional demand that follows that policy shift. Together, the policy and the tech aim to define the new financial rails for the 21st century.
So what's the key takeaway for you listening? It really means understanding that the focus in the U.S. seems to be shifting hard towards regulated institutional blockchain use cases. We're moving beyond the early retail speculation cycles. Compliance isn't just a box to tick. It's becoming the fundamental requirement for handling serious money, potentially trillions of dollars. And understanding that shift is pretty crucial for navigating what comes next.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's end with a final thought for you to chew on. If Project Crypto really succeeds, if it modernizes the SEC and sets this global standard for regulated blockchain finance, what does that mean for everyone else? Think about London, Singapore, Frankfurt, other major financial hubs. If the US, the world's biggest capital market, effectively mandates that future financial rails must be compliance first, built on tech like these layer zeros and private subnets, will those other centers be forced to scramble? To adopt a similar regulatory and tech blueprint just to keep up, just to remain competitive on the global stage? Something to think about.